From Trichome Studios, I'm Jesse Batend, and this is The High Ground. On this show, we feature leaders of the cannabis industry. We talk to farmers, CEOs, and public officials, anyone making an impact on the cannabis community and beyond. There's no question that cannabis comes with a fair share of stereotypes. As legal industries crop up across the country, business owners are facing the question of how to talk about cannabis and brand their products. It's a tricky line to walk, and my guest today knows all about it. Today, I'm joined by Ophelia Chong, founder of Stock Pot Images and co-founder of the organization Asian Americans for Cannabis Education. Stock Pot provides stock photos of cannabis and hemp that go beyond the handful of stereotypical images that other companies provide, and she's been called a visionary when it comes to portraying cannabis. Ophelia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jesse. It's so great to speak to you, to a human being.
Oh my God, I know.
I'm like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I almost have to go back and do my ABCs and go, hi, how are you? Right?
How's your quarantine going and what's your situation? Where are you?
Well, I am in Los Angeles, up in the hills, and it has, but I think it's about week 3. So okay. I am managing, but I have found that this is a secret that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I only need 10 pairs of black yoga pants, which are basically adult pajamas, 10 black hoodies, comfortable socks, good underwear, nothing that can ride down or ride too high up in the crack.
Crucial. Would you be willing to tell me the story of why you felt the need to start a company like Stock Pot Images and kind of where the inspiration came from?
Sure. So I discovered cannabis through a sick family member. And then, of course, I've been in photography and stock photography for about 30 years. I realized that the stock industry had a dearth of good cannabis images. And most of them they had were fairly racist in the keywords that were portraying cannabis users. So I changed that by creating Stock Pot and putting out progressive imagery of people of color, LGBTQ, so on and so forth, seniors, children, moms, kids even. I even had a 70-year-old African-American man who would have been arrested smoking weed in their Sunday best posing, smoking weed.
What were some of the stereotypes that you were encountering?
They were basically almost what Nixon wanted. When I first inquired, I went to I went to Getty and I typed in cannabis, marijuana, right? Stoner. And up came images of black men. And when you look at the keywords, it says addict, illegal, drug dealer, criminal. And I thought, really? That's how we feel. And that's how Getty, $1 billion company, wants to portray these images with these keywords, because they put the keywords on because that's what they believe that image represented. And the amount of racism was incredible. And it was sitting there in front of everybody, right? A publicly traded $1 billion company. And I was outraged. And from that's the day, January 7th, that I started Stock Pot. When I looked at those keywords and said, no, this is not going to work, because that is not who my sister is. And that's who you think she is, then I'm going to change it, because I was really mad and this was wrong. And so, because you can't portray people of color like that. And that's how Getty felt about my sister. So that was the impetus for Stock Pot. It was outrage. It wasn't about money. It was never about money with Stock Pot. I never got rich off of it. I always had to take extra jobs to support it because I never took money out of it. It all went back in. I never took a salary in 6 years. I never had Stock Pot pay for my travel, entertainment, expenses, nothing. It came out of my own pocket through other jobs that I took. That's how much I believed in what I was doing.
So there clearly was an element of this that was personal for you. When it comes to how you approached, you mentioned that you photographed children and you photographed adults and you photographed people in lots of different places. What were some of the guidelines or what did you say you wanted to do differently?
Well, what we wanted to do differently is portray people as they are. They are medical patients. They're humans. They are people. They are not drug addicts. They're not criminals. They're not drug dealers. They are medical patients. And that's what I wanted to bring to it. Because I did this campaign that MedMen ripped me off of was I'm not a stereotype. Right. And I put images that we had in our collections of grandmothers, of African American men, of pregnant women, of gay couples, right? And then 3 months later, of course, MedMen does I'm Not a Stoner. So I knew I was doing something right. And that campaign was all about bringing awareness to who we are and not who you think we are.
So clearly the industry responded to what you were doing. Who reached out to you and who did you end up working with who were interested in these kinds of images?
I have, at the end of the roster, I had about 240 photographers from around the world, everywhere from South Africa to Europe, and of course, all across North America. So there are a lot of people who came out of the woodwork. They were mostly amateurs, and they wanted their photography up. Plus, they were brave enough to put their name on all of this stuff 6 years ago. So what we have is very courageous people who believed in what they were doing and also aligned with what I wanted to do. And they all came together to produce these images. So we had a lot of clients that are from Entrepreneur Magazine, other AMG, a lot of large publishers, and they bought a lot from us. But then we started getting outbid, right? Because Getty saw the money and they started underpricing us, and so I started losing a lot of them because they wanted cheaper photographs. So the last 2 years, Adobe, which I partnered with, Getty, Alamy, Shutterstock, all the other ones jumped into it full force too, and also photographers had access. Before, no one had access. Because I could price it high because of the rarity. So I was being outpriced, outrun, and I decided to close Stockpot on December 2019. We were still ahead, but the sales were getting less and less. And that was also led to the demise of Stockpot, where I just refused to have an image for $1.
It seems like sometimes the people who are out there at the forefront and coming up with these ideas aren't always able to get compensated accurately. I wonder, like, if you have any thoughts about that, or if this was always kind of more about the issue for you than beating Getty, shall we say?
That's a really good question about people being compensated for their work, because we can take that across to the cannabis industry, right? Mm-hmm. We're all startups. Well, I'm gonna put that into 2017. We're all startups, and of course, you're trading one thing for another. Less pay for a possibility, right? And of course, that's always going to go on. But I always feel that in all industries across the board, we don't value people and we don't value their time. It's like, if you do this for me for free, I'll pass your name around and you will get work. Or let me use this of yours and one day you can borrow that of mine. That one might be good because that's a swap, barter. But the fact that people are asking other people to work for below living wages for an idea or for something is wrong. You need to be paid for what you're doing, and you should not start a company where people work for peanuts. You got to give them a piece of the company, right? You have to make it worth their time for investment for their own future. It's like, if I'm running off into a diatribe, but basically what I'm saying, you have to pay people for what they're worth. And right now in cannabis, it is always in the red. How can we have money to survive something like this when we couldn't have money to survive last year, right? So that is the issue we see now. And also we're not open to SBA loans because we're cannabis. And we're not open to payroll protection either under that plan because we're cannabis. So our industry has to come back after this and think how we're going to protect ourselves. How do we build a war chest to survive something again like this?
After Stockpot, what are your plans for the future?
Oh, another great question. So 3 years ago, I started psilocybin collection on Stockpot because I saw the future of it, right? That it was the next one coming out. So I wanted to have images for people to license. And also I became a hobbyist and learned how to grow adaptogenic mushrooms and also study the growing of ethnogenic, which is psilocybin. So I have done research and study on different ways of growing mushrooms in a cheaper and more accessible way for the public. And what I created was this product that has been used, and I'm improving on it, to grow mushrooms for $2 and saving yourself 30 hours of prep. So that is my new venture. And what that is the same thing almost about Stockpot. What I saw was that you can alleviate fear by educating. And if you can educate people on psilocybin with a $2 bag, the barrier of entry is so low, is less than a latte, then you are going to take people and show them what something is that they feared or they had no idea about, wanted to learn about. So that is what Mogu is about. And Mogu is the Chinese word for mushroom, M-O-G-U. My grandfather was also herbalist too in the 1930s before he came to Canada. And so we have a long history of using mushrooms in our family. And that is my next one. Again, it's about education, it's about outreach and bringing people to a new system, because this is the reason why I'm doing it too. The Gutenberg Bible, about 1450 AD, was a movable type press. Movable type is when you set little number letters together and they're backwards and you put a piece of paper on top and you have a printed piece, right? Gutenberg created movable type to produce the world's biggest book, biggest best-selling book, the Bible, because he wanted the Bible in everyone's hands to learn about God. Okay, so that was great, because before that, only the rich could read about God because they had a monk do a Bible for them, right? It's basically propaganda to the masses at a low barrier, free or close to free. And Mogu is basically propaganda at $2 on educating people on psilocybin.
You seem to be a person who just has an interest in kind of taking the unknown and making it understandable for people. Is that something that you've always kind of had a skill with?
Actually, that's a really great observation, Jesse, because that's what I do with Stockpot.
Right.
And so now with Mogu, it is basically showing people how they can take control over their own medicine and their own supply chain. Because what do we have now? We have a broken supply chain. And so this creates a personal supply chain for your own medicine. You do not depend on pharma. You do not depend on a brand. You are in control and you can create your own medicine. That's what it's about.
Ophelia Chong, founder of Stockpot Images. Ophelia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jesse. And this is amazing. And I'm so happy to be talking to a human. And you're an amazing human to talk to today because, oh my God, you just made my day so nice. Thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. You can find more cannabis industry reporting at trichomes.com, as well as more great shows like this one. If you're a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, reach out. You can reach the show at highground@trichomes.com. Please take a second to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. It really helps others find the show. You can also join the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at trichomes.com and following us on all social media. The High Ground is produced by David Fortin. I'm Jesse Batend, and thank you for listening.